So we're going to give two presentations today. One of them, Ed and I are going to kind of give you a review of what happened at Symposium, how cool it was, why you should go next year if you did not go, even if you have to pay for it yourself, because it's that awesome, that kind of stuff. And after that, Zach is going to give us a demo of his Sitecore UML tool, which is definitely worth to listen. I have seen it. I'm personally going to be using it on something. I'm going to get his help with it tomorrow. So that said, talk about Sitecore Symposium. So, just so you know, you didn't know it was in Vegas again this year. For anybody that went 2 times ago to Vegas in 2014, it was not the same location, which was the Aria last year, or the last time. I believe that it wasn't in the Aria this time because they're doing major construction of the Aria. They're actually increasing it and stuff like that. It was at the Mirage, which you can see the volcano and the beetle stuff going on in the background there. It's one of the MGM hotels. It's got 3,000 rooms. So there were 2,900 people that attended this year, which is I think about 800 more than last year's symposium that was in New Orleans. And they had a lot of symposium rooms, and they were all gone. So the event itself has definitely grown in popularity. What? Oh, the next slide. Oh, and it was on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So there, it runs. I'll talk about the thing there. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so this is Ed's picture. So this is one of the cool things. I actually took, this is Ed's picture. I took a picture that wasn't actually as big, but it just showed on the experience. I mean, when you got to the when you got to the airport, you knew you were there for Sitecore Symposium because everybody should have been. You know, you're going to get this here. It was definitely not like this in previous years. They kind of upped the game. And if you got a chance, if you were there, you would have gone to the partner pavilion there. A lot of partners this year, bigger, better, and Sitecore streamlined the process. You didn't necessarily make your own piece. There was an agreed design. You were let to do the design, and they pretty much assembled it. It wasn't like you used to do, where you would hire a company that did trade show booths, and you would make a trade show booth and you would ship the trade show. No, this is not something that you owned. It was basically you did design, it was built, it was done. It was pretty impressive. There were a lot of partners there. A lot of interactive displays too. And yeah, there were a lot of people there, and they did feed you. And the food at the Mirage is pretty darn good too, I'd have to say. It was for hotel food. Yeah, they kind of did it up.
I think it's important to note that that line that you see is only about halfway across the room.
Yeah.
This photo didn't even do a good job.
No, it really doesn't.
Surprisingly large.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, no, it's pretty darn big. And they did. They catered events like partner pavilion events and little beer crawl type things and stuff like that to keep it interesting in the evenings. It is a. I'd say they did a very good job of keeping everybody busy and entertained. It wasn't like there was a lot of downtime there. As a matter of fact, there wasn't enough downtime if you need to be in our business. So we'll have the slide shared. That's a link right there to YouTube if you want to watch the keynotes and the teasers. We'll talk about it a little bit. That's the new head honcho guy right there, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit about the fact that the top layers changed hands. So perspective isn't that much different than it was previously. There, the Sitecore is still Sitecore. It's not like it changed there. I mean, you can see that the Drive Your Digital Destiny is the piece there on keynote. Now, what's different between this year and last year? Last year they recorded a lot more of the presentations. You could go, you still can, if you want to go watch a lot of the 2016 individual breakout sessions and stuff. There's a lot of that. I'm not seeing a lot of that this year. They've got some teasers. They've got a couple of the keynotes and whatnot for Symposium. Up on this YouTube. And like I said, I've got the link here, so when we host the slideshow, you get to it. To give you an idea, again, you can go here and take a look at the agenda. There are some of the individual people, if you start looking, and I have for the sessions that I got a chance to attend, some of them have hosted their own stuff. Sitecore's not hosting it, so you can find some of the information. A lot of times they have hosted or put up the slides that they use. If you just take a quick look at the agenda here, Monday wasn't a real day, it was like a welcome thing. So Tuesday and Wednesday are full days, and Thursday kind of a roll off on it.
And that was a new thing too, actually. The third day of actually having events and stuff. Previously, it was really just, even though they said it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it was really just Tuesday and Wednesday. But this year they had half day of stuff on Thursday.
On Thursday, which was it? They didn't really, when they advertised it, they were basically, oh, it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. No, it's actually Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They did have more content. So this was an interesting change if you've been in previous years. It used to be 3 tracks. Last year they made it 4, so there are 4 standards. The breakout sessions, the tracks, developer marketing, strategy, and getting started. I thought they did a nice job this year of providing enough for people, whether or not you were there as a customer or a marketer, you were in the sales trying to sell Sitecore, or a lot. The majority still development. One of the new ones that they got was this partner theater, and I thought it was rather interesting. I attended one by Mr. Mead back there. I think his picture's here. I pulled that picture off the internet. And there was another one we found. We were just doing a generic Sitecore search. I don't know what happened to that one. This is a different one. We're doing a generic Sitecore search. Ed and Dean, who could not be here, you're supposed to be here today. The 3 of us were working on a WebEx, Skype, WebEx thing, and so we could see Ed's screen that he was doing a search on Sitecore images. And I said, whoa, wait a minute, go back. That's David Mead. And it was somebody else that had taken a full picture, and it wasn't one of us. I don't know who it was. Big full picture of you giving the partner theater. But the interesting thing about this, and I thought this was nice, is it gives the partners, and not all the partners got to do it. We were privileged enough to get to do it. It allows you to showcase a project. We did an accelerator, and you don't have to have 45 minutes and the extensive vetting process that you go through, because, and I'm sure a lot of us here submitted things to try to speak at Symposium. There are so many submissions and very few get picked. You have to go through the process. This is nice because it's not really the same thing. It's giving you an opportunity to say, hey, we're just going to talk for a little bit about this interesting thing that we're doing. Maybe you want to come see more about it. Maybe you're thinking about doing something and we're already working on it. Maybe it gives you an idea. Maybe, it was, I thought, a very nice thing. I saw David give his, and I saw another one that I thought was rather interesting. And like I said, it was different than going to a full session. And I was actually manning, we had a booth, I was manning a booth, and I got to see part of one of the other ones, whereas I couldn't go and see a session, so it was rather different. So we have a list of key takeaways that we're talking about.
I guess I should probably get up here. It's a long week.
It's a long week for Ed. Ed just got back from Plano.
I got to visit my NTT corporate mothership.
Yeah.
See our IndyCar, and that was exciting. And then
you have an IndyCar?
Yeah, we have an IndyCar. We sponsor what's his name? Tony Kanan, the IndyCar driver.
I didn't know.
Yeah. NTT Data, my employer, does a whole bunch of stuff around that. We've developed a biofeedback fabric that he wears while he's racing that measures his heart rate, his breathing, his muscle usage and everything. It's pretty cool actually. We also got a robot there because we make robots and stuff like that. Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, it was fun. So
we'll talk about robots.
Yeah. So here's our list of key takeaways, the things that I think we kind of pulled out that were big things that people were talking about as a symposium. My favorite was the little coffee shop right outside when I got my morning espresso. Came in the little 90s cup design, which I thought was amazing. So during the opening keynote, there was a presentation done. I forget the partner who did it. I'm not going to give them the name recognition because you never met your competition.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, and because I think I actually had been on that project at one point.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So where Toro, the lawnmower company, was using, they were calling it IoT, where the various lawnmower models have diagnostic stuff built into them that can talk back to your phone, which then talks back through an app to their Sitecore site, which then feeds all that data back for you as a kind of owner portal. And it's very smart because it'll tell you like, oh hey, we noticed that your lawnmower's running, like the lawnmower noticed that it was running rough because the like vibration counts were off or something like that. Maybe you should get that checked out. Or maybe it's, or here's what it probably is. Go order this part proactively because it's going to break in 3 months. It was kind of cool. And of course everyone, you know, was then making the suitable number of jokes about the lawnmowers becoming sentient and killing us all. So hence the lawnmower man. I mean, swarm of them down the bottom. But it was really cool because it kind of spoke to Sitecore's growing capabilities with its integrations with various, like, you know, consumer technologies and IoT stuff. And there's a, you know, I don't think it's something that's happening a whole lot today, but in the way that stuff that they talked about at Symposium 2 years ago is now actually starting to hit the shop floor, that probably in 2 years we're all going to be integrating Sitecore with thermometers or thermostats and stuff.
Yeah, and if you want to see more stuff on the Toro bit, if you go to that link and you watch the keynote, which is like an hour long, the Toro guys come out during that whole thing, so you can actually see it. It's pretty interesting. So that is one of the things that you can see on video.
So one of the other things that Brett was talking about earlier was that the CEO was changed and all of his direct reports have changed, and I think that this actually is worth discussing because it has marked a little bit in my perception, and I've seen kind of some interactions with them, where this management change is really kind of tightening up a lot of their loose ends and a lot of their kind of more, you know, startup-y things. Like, for example, the way that their partner program is handled is all getting revamped in a much more, so it's going to be much more cohesive, much more uniform, and much more predictable than the way it had been in the past. And I think that, you know, they're doing that because Sitecore is really positioning itself to kind of take the next leg up in its growth. And, you know, they just needed some outside help to do that. The bummer is some familiar faces are gone. I don't know how many of you have worked with, I just found this out the other day about Bill Sapp.
Yeah, Bill Sapp's no longer.
For me, for many years, Bill Sapp was the face of Sitecore. I'm sad to find out he moved on. But, you know, I think there are a lot of other really great people who started out and who've joined them. So I'm looking forward to what this
wrong or Adobe culture.
Yeah, a number of the people who are there have come over from Adobe. And I'm not going to say anything about that because but you know, look, they probably, I mean, you know, I like to say that it's because they saw the light and they realized that the Adobe product is a bunch of spewing pile of junk, and they wanted to leverage their existing excellent skills. Excellent software. See, that's how you get to keep the MVP.
Yeah.
Yeah,
here's your big one.
Yeah, here's the big one. And Sitecore 9 was everywhere, in the same way that last year Sitecore 8 was everywhere. But Sitecore 9, I think, is actually a much bigger step forward than 8 was. Or, you know, 8 was over 7 because, you know, everyone kind of, like, knew that the big things that changed between, like, 7 and 8 were all around, like, right? Everyone's favorite, everyone's best friend. And now they've actually, or with 9, they're introducing a whole bunch of new features. They're introducing a whole lot of new improvements. It's actually available now as opposed to, I think, last year it was like a month or so later before 8.
Well, yeah, when they released 8, yeah, I was like, oh, we're releasing it, but they didn't really release it. 9 is available. You can download it right now from Sitecore. You know, if you've got the appropriate license, you go through the entire process of installing it. One of the things that we don't have on the slide is that the installation process is very different than it used to be. There's no executable anymore. You don't just get to, if you want to set up a quick and dirty Sitecore, it's not that simple. You've got to run, you know, you've got to at least be familiar enough with PowerShell, or you got to get familiar enough with PowerShell to be able to run it. I mean, there's a framework to run it. But it's no longer the marketing guy is going to be able to just install Sitecore, because you can get away with that before, answer a couple questions. As long as you got the license, you can get a vanilla instance up. That's not the case anymore. So. But
that actually, I think, portends some of the other things that were in it that I think make it, that are exciting about it. For example, point number 4 on here with the configuration roles. So one of the things that we've always struggled with has been the kind of you know, the dichotomy of the awesome way that Sitecore does the configuration files to make, you know, managing all of that in a granular way really great. But at the same time, it also meant that you could have hundreds and hundreds of them, and it was sometimes really ugly trying to figure out, you know, what belonged where, what was for what roles, right? Like, is this the one for CM? Is this one for CD? And how do you like handle all of that? Because it meant that like that handling transforms for that had to be done outside of the Sitecore universe, and you had to rely on whatever like CI or deployment tool you were using to do that, or just some poor guy who had to go reading configuration files every time there was a deployment. You know, that like that type of stuff is now built in, that you can have, you can say like, oh, this is for like, this instance is for this role, and then it will like only use that role's configuration files, which is pretty awesome. I think that's a big game changer for developers, and but when you talk to anyone who actually just like owns the software, they don't know. Also, one of the other things that was important to mention that I didn't even realize, but I think you pointed this out, that Mongo won't be supported. Maybe it was
it was
on that call.
Yeah, it was on the call, yeah. So if you're on Mongo and you don't want to change your infrastructure, wait till 9.1.
But speaking of infrastructure, one of the things that's really big with 8 is that they're really pushing, Sitecore's really kind of retooling it to be much more, like much friendlier with Azure, and much friendlier with Azure, and we'll talk about that in its own stuff. But to make that a lot smoother and a lot better, and you know, to peel off, they've written additional stuff. They've rewritten it in .NET Core. So, for example, things besides just publishing can be peeled off onto non-IIS instances in Azure, which is kind of cool. Then there's stuff around Active Directory Federation services, and Azure Active Directory are now out of the box as opposed to you know, separate components. There are marketing automation UI improvements, I believe. So I think that was one of the things that was still in Silverlight, and Silverlight is now completely gone. The Salesforce connector is supported going forward. I actually don't even remember much about that being mentioned, but it was in my. But I thought enough of it to write it down in my notes. And so if you.
Yeah, and that's. I think that's an important thing to just kind of a philosophical thing. When they released 8, the roadmap. If you went to the one a few years ago in Vegas when they released 8, the roadmap at the end of it was, and by the time we get to Sitecore, well, they were using 9, but by the time we get to Sitecore 9, you won't need Salesforce, you won't need everything, because Sitecore is going to be your CRM, it's going to be everything. And they've realized that that's not the case. Sitecore is really good at doing a lot of things, being your CRM is not one of them, so instead, they're, okay, no, like, and other connectors I think are going to come, but you know, actually I know they are. They're going to want to use one for Dynamics as well, but the Salesforce one's already there. So no, we're going to support this because you're going to use the CRM, and we're going to talk to it instead of, you know. So they've kind of backed off of that big pie in the sky thing we talked about originally, which I think makes sense.
Yeah, I agree.
Concentrate on the actual core product.
I agree, because I think, you know, Sitecore always had that idea, like you were saying, that Sitecore could be your CRM, and yeah, I mean, it could if you don't have a CRM, but most of the time, you actually have a CRM already, and they're not going to want to replace, you know, no one's going to want to replace their Salesforce instance with Sitecore. So, yeah, the other thing that is very exciting is that there's a real new Sitecore Forms. You know, our old friend, I know everyone loves it, Web Forms for Marketers. We're sadly going to be saying goodbye to it.
And there's no migration process.
Yeah. So it's kind of like you're just, you know, nuking it from orbit, but I feel like that's fair.
No, I mean, there can't be. They're part of a couple of discussions about it, and it's just such a different thing. But it's better. It's MVC based and pipeline based. It's much better.
One of the other large topics that they were, it's like the Sitecore folks were very proud of, was Sitecore Commerce. That I don't know if you can see the suitably pixelated Sitecore Commerce server logo. But Sitecore Commerce has now, or Microsoft Commerce, there we go, that they have completely rewritten all of the stuff that used to be Commerce Server. It is now all pure Sitecore. It now follows Sitecore type practices. So, for example, you know, there are pipelines. There are, you know, the UI is much better aligned. I'm sure a lot of things that would make things like easier.
Yeah.
One of the things they talked about, it was, or one of the things that came up was that It's now very much more package-based for all of it, so that you can just take the bits and pieces you need and you're not stuck with everything.
Yeah, it runs on its own aside from Sitecore. I mean, it's made to work with Sitecore, but it runs on its own. It's not like, I mean, anybody who's done anybody who's run through and done the installation procedures at the point of your tile on anything that's involved in that, you know how painful that is. And so, that's one of the big pieces that they've done here is they've extracted it.
And by folding it in better with everything else, it means you're finally able to take advantage of the other Sitecore goodies, analytics, personalization, testing, machine learning, all that stuff. So speaking of machine learning, they announced, they called it Sitecore Cortex, and it's going to be basically, I'm a little blanking on the actual mechanics of it, but it's the Sitecore integration with Azure ML to allow you to do things using machine learning. What those things are somewhat nebulous, but there are actually some solid use cases. I remember.
Yeah, and they talked about it. I mean, you have them up here. They did show, making predictions and trends and predicting the content and stuff like that based on machine learning. Which
there was that one about the personalization around appliance purchases. That they noticed that if someone's purchasing the types of things that make it look like they're buying a house, or that they just bought a house, that it can, it can identify those behavior trends in your analytics data, and then perform actions around them without really needing to get human beings involved. Which I think is probably a good step, because even though I do actually fear the takeover of robots, I think that one of the areas that I've run into is that content teams are often somewhat lagging behind the capabilities of the software. And so as a result, they don't get a chance to take advantage of all the really cool stuff because, they're just not, they're not there yet, or they're too busy trying to keep all the plates spinning and keep everything up to date, that they don't have time to really think through like a marketing automation or personalization. And that if we can, starting to automate some of that will probably, will mean that some of this functionality gets used more frequently because it gets baked in from the very beginning. So that's kind of exciting. But like most things, I think it's going to be a little while until this is actual mainstream functionality. I think I forgot the exact example. But there were, like I was saying earlier, there are things that were talked about, 2 years ago as, hey, this is now a capability, and now it's 2 years later, and we're actually starting to use it. So,
yeah, they're definitely catching up to the dream that was the spiel from Sitecore 8. A lot of the stuff actually works.
Yeah.
So, and it didn't just be.
So, next up is my friend Helix. So, anyone not familiar with what Helix is? Feel free to raise your hands. I'm speaking Greek. Okay, cool, good. So Sitecore is very focused on Helix to the point where they have said that they are going to start looking at solutions that partners have built, and if they are not following Helix principles, there are going to be consequences. What those consequences are, I don't know. I think it may be that they give you a wedgie or something.
Yeah, they're not specific on it, but they're definitely expecting that anybody who's a partner builds to those standards now.
Yeah.
But mostly because all modules, it says all modules, everything going forward is supposed to fit into that basic build structure. So if yours isn't built like that, you're going to work.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's a good step because something I've discovered over the years is that there are a lot of partners out there doing a lot of second wave work, and that damages us all, right? Because I've seen projects, I've seen Sitecore customers changing platforms, not because the platform was no good. Obviously, we know that's not the case. It's because the implementation was just not great, and they're like, oh well, Sitecore is horrible. We need to find something better, and then they end up using like. Honestly, God, it was a couple of years ago, and I saw someone migrating from Sitecore to Ektron. I cried. I went home and I cried. So I think that Sitecore's increasing focus on Helix and its ability and its desire to kind of like get the partner community on board with it is really a good thing for all of us. Plus, I mean, Helix is just great. It's actually, I personally am a big fan of it, and I think, I'm glad that they're pushing everyone in a good direction as opposed to into something, not. So they were also very excited about Solution Accelerator. This is one of those other things that they were really talking about last year, and they made a big announcement about Solution Accelerator, and that now it's actually something to shop for. They're continuing to promote it. They're continuing to kind of work on it, keep it up to date. One of the interesting things is that with Sitecore's licensing changes, which we'll talk about in a moment, that they're trying to move people or customers into consumption-based licensing, and one of the carrots in that carrot and stick situation is that Solution Accelerator is included with that consumption-based licensing, whereas with the fixed purchase model that it was using before, it wasn't. And that very soon it will include commerce components alongside all the other components that they've built for it. It's my favorite slide. One of the other things that really was a big topic of discussion was headless development. Anyone here not familiar with what I mean when I say headless development? Okay, I'm going to pretend that someone has their head. Just the headless development is basically when you use Sitecore as a content repository and you write a front end or you write a website that accesses the Sitecore stuff not via the Sitecore API, and that the components are built in .NET, but they're built in JavaScript and one of the JavaScript frameworks, and it just reaches back and gets like JSON and populates page templates with that. So in the past, this was possible. Sitecore had that thing, item services. Wasn't great. It worked, but I'm glad I never had to do it. But they realized that there is a lot of demand for this, and there's a lot of demand for this, I think, for a couple of reasons. One of them is just that there are some paradigms where this just makes sense as a development paradigm. Especially if you have a website that's much more of an application, like a web application, than just like an informational website. I think in a lot of cases, this makes a lot of sense. One of the other ones, and this is something that I think is really interesting, and that I have mixed feelings about because I sit on both sides of this table at the same time, is that honestly, it's a lot easier to find JavaScript developers and front-end developers who are familiar with those technologies than it is Sitecore developers. And what JSS, the Sitecore framework for all of this, does is it allows that type of developer to be able to do stuff that it used to have to take Sitecore certified developers to do, right? Like code up presentation components. Because it can even just generate a static version of content for them to code against, so that they can do local development. One of the demos, someone was using his Mac, and he was like, "I'm really excited about this because it means I don't have to boot up a VM when I want to code up display components anymore. I do all of my work in Visual Studio Code. I'm coding against the JSON API that I've got like a static version of saved, and I can trust that." And so you're able to build all of that stuff like that. And then, and also, one of the other things that's really nice about it is that you're able to deploy those front ends on cheap, lightweight hardware, or cheap, lightweight cloud instances. You don't need an IIS machine with, you don't need a Windows machine with IIS running to serve up a site that has all of its data coming from Sitecore. One of the things that was also really cool about this, and one of the big questions that I always had about it previously was, was that you would have to basically code the whole thing twice to make it work in Experience Editor, but now there are techniques you can use using this stuff that make it natively performant in Experience Editor. So it's pretty cool.
I have to hurry up to the rest of this because we need to attack the presentation.
Yeah, we got to the fun slide with
Yeah,
learning. So, real quick, Sitecore is embracing Azure even more. you know, there's things I was saying about 2 years ago. They were talking about now you can actually do that. They've moved the status of the Azure toolkit to make it a lot easier. That now you can actually just go into the Azure Marketplace and spin up a Sitecore instance like that. That's not really what you want to do for real, but like if you just need to do a quick demo of this is what the CMS looks like, you can do that really quickly. It's pretty cool. And like I said, licensing changes. They've introduced consumption-based licensing. This wasn't a new thing at Symposium, but it's a thing that has come up over the past year. This is their preference for new sales and for new customers. It's good because I think that it makes Sitecore an option for customers who might not have been able to afford the initial upfront investment before, which I think is a really big thing for kind of, you know, growing the pie and growing that, you know, growing the Sitecore family. Yeah, and this thing. So they're also rewriting the UI for editing content in the future. They're going to be providing 2 of them. One of them they're calling Zenith, and that's for headlessly managing content. I think that's more for simple content management, like, oh, you got to go update the press release, you got to go update, you know, whatever, and you can do it from your phone or from a mobile app or whatever. And then Horizon, which is going to be the bigger, the more fully functional or fully featured editor that's going to finally start presenting analytics data alongside your content, so you can see, you know, what's been popular, what's been valuable as you browse the site.
Yeah, it's very second market. They're going to release this as a module initially.
For pay or buy them out.
I don't know yet. But it's going to be released as a module. I actually don't know. But it is not something that's going to replace like the experience editor or anything at the moment. I think down the road that's the intention. But it does have a lot of powerful simulation to it. I want to see what my content is going to look like on Tuesday on an iPhone 4, and this is what it looks like on an iPhone 6. And this is what it looks like on whatever tablet, and this and that and the other. You can it's a whole lot of exercise in JavaScript to change and see what pages are going to look like, along with what you saw about the analytics. It's heavily for marketers. When they gave the little spiel, you see all of the marketing people that were in the closing keynote, you could see them go, wow. You knew they were marketing people because that's really powerful for them. Don't really have any more information about the fact that it's going to be released.
So this year, when we were talking about them kind of going a little bit bigger with the whole thing, they had someone who was very recognizable as a, not necessarily as a keynote speaker, they called it the fireside chat with Mark Hamill.
Yes.
And really, I think it was an excuse that a lot of the people at Sitecore are big into Star Wars, and they wanted an excuse to bring out Mark Hamill. But it was a good thing, because Sitecore robots.
Okay.
This is all you.
Okay, I wanted to talk about this. This was, in my opinion, the best thing at Symposium. It had very little to do with really any of the normal tracks in the beat. So, this is Robbie the Sitecore robot. These 2 guys from Europe, and I can't remember which country they were from. I don't even think they were the same company. They decided to build this little guy. He's a little Raspberry Pi. He's wearing a set of Chuck Taylors. They built this robot to build a robot. They said so right on, right? It was, why did you do this? Well, because it's cool to build a robot. Well, what the robot did is he's driven from a Sitecore site. So his responses were pages in Sitecore. And what they did down there, they used some out-of-the-box APIs for face recognition, for emotion, including another API to, can't remember the name of it right now, that allow for speech.
Luis.
Yes, that's what it was. And what they did was they tied it to Sitecore, and it was a good example of the omni-channel capabilities that Sitecore has. So the robot would, if you walked up to it and saw you, it would study you. If it did not recognize you, it would say, introduce itself and say, what's your name? And when you told you its name back, he would record your name and your face, right, X profile right before you. So he knew he'd seen you before. So they could change responses based on personalization of the pages. You always kind of, so he had this where it would tell you jokes and had different responses. All driven from the Sitecore pages. You could say, if the person is angry, then tell them this. that kind of stuff. Now, it's a ridiculous thing to do, right? It really is. However, it's a neat example. And the first one, and I thought of this, the first one that they said was, well, you know, what could you use it for? Well, you come to Target, they have facial recognition. You know, you could do that, figure out, oh, wait a minute, my site's run on Sitecore, I know this person. You know, I know where they are in the store. I can upsell them on things. I can do that kind of stuff like that. Which, since they want that whole 365-degree thing, it was a reasonable example of showing how you can get that information in Sitecore from a completely separate source and drive some of the interactions. But that's I saw the thing as a session, and you have to attend it. The best thing about it, and I meant to put the link in here, and I'll upload it later. They have shared all of the source code for the Sitecore piece, everything, including the stuff for the 3D printing, so that you can build this guy if you want to. Okay, everything has been shared. I thought it was really neat. And then the only thing that I left here before with Zach is next year. So they announced Orlando, Florida, which is the Swan and Dolphin Resort, which is a Mickey Mouse thing. We've got Mickey Mouse. It's going to be October 8th to 11th of next year. So that's it.
I just realized we should have put like black bars on Mickey's faces.
That's it.